So how'd you end up here, man?
Yeah, so I started on the weekends. I said, I'll at least give it the weekends, right? So I went and got licensed, and I started doing a couple of times on the weekends. I started with some second chance mortgage leads, pounded those, got my butt kicked for a little bit on those, and then but it was able to allow me to um, make a couple sales off of it, really. And so once I was able to make a couple sales, I just realized, okay, I just need to put more activity into this because I understood the sales aspect of it's a numbers game, and so I just knew if I did more, I had enough of the proof of concept by making those couple of sales to make it real to me. And so I said, okay, that's where I'm leaving the security of having this job with a 401k, a car allowance, a pretty good base salary. It was enough for me to realize the potential in this, and that's where I was
Sure.
just willing to. I had no plan B going into it. I said, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to put a lot of money and time and effort into this to make it my own and to figure it out. So that's basically what I did,
Yeah.
and that's kind of how I got into it. So
And I want to share specifically because everyone has their own story, how they got started. Your particular one I feel like, is a good one to share because obviously you're rolling now, but you had a rough start, not really even due to something in your control, right? Because
right,
you were
yeah,
gonna start you were planning to start full time December of
hmm
last year, right? But it really didn't work out that way. Tell people what happened.
yeah. So I did some call-in leads, and the way that company works is that you have to pay for the data in advance, to pay for your mailers in advance. So I paid 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then 4 weeks into it. I had put almost 8 grand into it because I just wanted to be really aggressive with my lead spend. The problem is that's when COVID started. My mail just sat in a warehouse somewhere. So eventually it finally started to move for me, but by then I had quite a bit of I would say call it debt on my credit card. So when it started coming in, I was like, all right, it's time to go to work. And so
Yeah.
I ran 6, 7 days a week because I just realized I wasn't that good and I needed to put the time and effort into it to be successful at it. So again, I had no plan B going into this. This was what I was going to do, and come hell or high water, I was going to make it work. So
Yeah, I
it's
remember you going through that and just being like, geez, because you had just transitioned from that, part time on the weekends to you're like, I'm going in, and you were spending some serious money on
yeah,
leads. And yeah, I remember us like freaking out, calling the lead vendor, and they were like, we sent it, they didn't know what was going on. And yeah, just
yeah,
with I think the mix of COVID and the holidays and the way that mail was going, that your leads were just in a mail house for like a month, backed up with
uh,
everyone else's mail, and the people didn't get it. And then it was like, I think it was the beginning of January, you were getting like 50 leads a day were
yeah.
pouring in. Like these had all finally hit and they were coming in at once. And
There's an
but that was a
avalanche.
tough 4 weeks for you because you were
Yeah,
spending and you weren't making money. And that was a
right.
really unique situation. That was the first time I had experienced that with an agent, and that's the only time since. So
Yeah.
that was a crazy one. So you started going, you started doing full time. Talk to us, and I remember there was definitely a time where you had to shoot up in your production to where you were doing, 2, 3, 4,000 a week, and then you started really hitting those 10K weeks consistently. Talk to us about your own personal growth. Obviously, you knew right off the bat, I have to be doing 30 plus appointments a week, and you were putting in, I would say, even extra time than the typical FFL agent. But talk to us about what made that big difference, from going right in 2, 3, 4 to 9, 10 plus.
Yeah, so the first 2 weeks when I started getting my leads and I did like 3,500, and then I had like a week where I did maybe 5 grand, and then
Mhm.
the next 2 weeks after that I did 13K. And really it was just my activity. I just was getting more and more activity. I was getting more and more appointments, which was
Mhm.
allowing me to write the premium. So, going back to that, even though I was only a couple of weeks into it, and when I start hitting those bigger numbers, even now when I have an off week, I can always reference back to that time where
Sure.
even when I was brand new, wasn't really good at what I was doing. If I ran enough numbers, I put the numbers in my favor, I was going to have success. I was just going to find the people that wanted it. I was just getting
Right.
that top 25, maybe a little bit extra of the people that just wanted it. That's what I was doing. So that's really, so then I still had a little bit of ups and downs. And then really when I started to have that consistent success is when I started to say the same thing every time when I first got into the home. It was the same exact thing every single time. And when I did that, it allowed me to have consistency. So that way, then it takes the emotion out when I have an off day, just because I know I didn't say anything different than the last appointment or the last time I had a big day. And it just running the numbers, putting the numbers in my favor, and just being consistent with all three steps from the in home of, my presentation of it to the financial inventory to presenting it, right? Just having those three steps of it,
Mhm.
being consistent every single time, which has allowed me to have that mindset where if I have a bad day, it doesn't really bother me as much because I know I'm saying the same exact thing every time. But that was the biggest thing with my consistency is just being able to be consistent with what I was saying in the home.
It's real interesting to me hearing you speak, Mike, is the way that you talk about your sales and the sales process and how different it is from the typical person, especially considering your background. So obviously you were a sales rep, a professional sales rep, and then a sales manager where you trained many sales reps for for several years and a
Yeah.
decade plus all told, right? 13 years, you said.
Yeah.
And over the course of that time, you would think, I mean, obviously you were a skilled salesperson. I think it goes without saying you wouldn't have been in that career and then in that position had you not been, and effective at teaching people. But what you emphasize when you talk about this is not your skill as an individual, but much more just the process. Hearing you talk about this, you're talking about running the amount of appointments, you're talking about your schedule, you're talking about more chances. And then even with your in-home, you're thinking about it like a process, 1 2 3, like this is how I do it. And I think it's probably what makes you such an effective trainer, because when I hear you speak, I'm not thinking, wow, Mike is so good, I could never be like that. Like, obviously you're good, you're having 13K weeks back to back. I was like, but I'm thinking, okay, all I need to do is copy what Mike does and then I'll be successful. And then you make it seem so down to earth. You make it simple. Like, you really make me see like, oh, okay, like I could do this. So is that the way you think about this whole job in particular? Just the process, the way that you do it?
Yeah, and then as far as because it really is a simple process, right? And that's what I guess with my old job, that was kind of like something that I wanted to dumb it down for people. Not that they're dumb, but I wanted to dumb the process down. So literally, I could give this to someone who doesn't even have their license. I give it to a secretary and say, "Hey, do these three things, and you'll have success." Because all you're doing is just following the process.
Mm-hmm.
I guess going back to my old like being a sales manager is, I think just with the whole um just the whole mentality behind it. It was just I told when I interviewed for the position, I told the guy that was interviewing me, I said, look, I don't feel like I'm the best sales rep in the world. I feel like I'm a better coach than I'm a player though. I feel like I can get someone who's maybe like a B level up to an A,
Hmm.
right? And I feel like that I guess is my one of my strengths is I can elevate, I can make people simplify the process. And then from there, like, Travis Vincent's already putting up bigger numbers than me. And
Hmm.
I'm okay with that, But I feel like that's my goal and what I want for the team is every
Sure.
way day one for my personal goal was to hit 10K every
Hmm.
single week. And so my goal is when I bring these people on is to elevate them and to make them, I'm never gonna be, that maybe the, like a Steve Giordano, but I think I can. My strength is helping people see how simple this is. Where if you just run the numbers, have the numbers in your favor, and just follow the simple process, you're gonna have success. And
Right.
so I think it's just repeating that and just getting better at. You're naturally gonna get better the more experience you have, like getting through those first 100 appointments. And once you get through that, it's just anyone can do this. It's just about not quitting and just following the process. So
Right. 100%. 100%. So now you are aggressively building a team. And like you just mentioned, Travis, you got some people who are out there crushing it. And so
yeah.
talk to us now that you understand this process for yourself so well. Talk to us about, and I think this is something, I've seen and admired from you, and we actually literally, and I'm going to take a minute here and sing your praises because just the other day I had a new agent who'd been going for a few weeks. They were struggling, and I got you in contact with them. You spent some time with them, And the very next day, they had a huge day in the field. Now, I think part of that was also that they ran into a pretty big client, but they were ready for him, and I think you helped them a lot. And they actually had, was it a 10K day that Andrew had? I didn't put it all together. It was close if
Yeah,
it
he
wasn't.
was like, I think he's at 98.50 is what he finished with yesterday.
Yeah, so a
And then he already has a
huge,
couple today that he's already put back. So he's already having over 10K in the last 48 hours, and he's still got more appointments to go. So
yeah,
he's
pretty
killing
cool.
it.
And,
Yeah.
and this is coming off of last week. I'm pretty sure he had zero.
Okay.
Like
Well,
he was struggling. That's why I was like, man, Mike, can you help me with this? So talk to us then about that. I think this is going to be really valuable, just not just to agents, but also to managers like yourself who are trying to help people grow. When you got a new agent, and let's
mhm,
say we take somebody and like we'll use Andrew, because Andrew
okay.
did not come from the sales industry. And I know you said your brother was also like that, who you've helped. Let's say we're bringing someone fresh who maybe they don't even really understand the sales process super well. How do you break this down for them and help them understand how to be successful at this job?
Yeah. So the first thing I want to do is I want to put him at ease. I want to let them know. I just want to say, look, this, I want to tell them up front. And by repeating things over and over again to them, I'm going to make them believe what I'm telling them. So I want to put them at ease from the beginning. Say, look, this is easy. All you got to do is follow these three steps, right? Is the first thing you got to do is here's your script for if you're doing mortgage protection, here's your in-home script, right? Just say this, right? Because if the client's confused, they're not going to buy. If you're confused, they're not going to buy, right? So you want to make sure they understand what this process is because that builds credibility right from step one. The
Mm-hmm.
second thing is completely go through the financial inventory. So that way, when you call me, I can know how to help you and I can know their situation. So all you do is all the questions on there, completely fill them out. If you're not for sure on something, call me and I'll help you walk you through it, right? But you got to do all the steps on there. And going through it, I'll kind of walk them through it too, because I want to give them the why behind what they're doing. Because if they don't know why behind what they're doing, they're not going to always do that, and they're going to fall into bad habits early on. Like, as for
Sure.
example, if like they're doing mortgage protection, if you're not asking them, do you plan on paying the home off early? It's hard to really figure out the client situation, and when you can figure out their situation and angle something to make it make sense to them, they're going to buy. So that's kind of like the second step is going through the financial inventory completely, and then the third step is you got to call me. If you're a new rep, if you're not calling me, you're not going to have success, or it's going to be really tough to do that. So those are the three steps. So that's all you have to do. You don't have to know everything about the product knowledge. That's what you're calling me for,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm going to ask you some questions pertaining to their situation to try to see how can we help this client,
Mm.
right? And find something to them that's going to be a great amount of coverage, but it's also going to be, God forbid, if something were to happen, it's still affordable too at the same time, right? So those are the two main things that I'm trying to get from the client. And
Sure.
so that's what I'm telling them right off is just a 1, 2, 3 step.
Sure. So you're really breaking it down. So of course, so you're taking into account right off the bat the mentality of this. You're trying to take away people's nerves, and that may be roadblock they're putting up for themselves by putting them at ease. And you are something I love that you said, and I remember hearing it in school growing up, repetition is the key to learning. You
Absolutely.
are
Yep.
repeating the affirmations and the things that you are telling to people more and more, just with the knowledge that, hey, if they keep hearing me say this, it's going to keep reinforcing it and they're going to believe it, more and more. So that's good. And you're really breaking down. You're not only giving people the tools, what to say, but you're helping them understand why they are doing these actions,
Absolutely. Yeah.
so that they can really get the psychology. Because and I think that's the best way to do it, because I sometimes people coming to this industry, I think and naturally, they just don't know, they're thinking about it really wrong, because they're almost want you to give them a play by play, like, tell me exactly, what I say, tell me exactly what to do, I'll do exactly what you say. And that to me is similar to be like, okay, if I was a basketball coach and this was a new basketball player, and they're like, okay, tell me how many steps do I take before I go up and like I take the shot, on this defender, he's going to defend me. And like, you can't give someone that kind of instruction. Like it doesn't work, that'd be weird. Take 4 steps and then pull up and shoot. every time, on that guy. Like, no, like that's not how the game works. You have to help them understand the game. And so you're taking a good chunk of time helping people understand the mentality of someone who's buying final expense, understand, the mentality of someone who's buying mortgage protection, and the mentality of what we're doing. Like, so you're telling them what to do and you're explaining why we do it.
Yeah,
So that's
absolutely.
really powerful. That's really powerful.
I
Beyond
would say
that,
one more.
go
Sure.
ahead, please.
I would say one thing, if you have a rep that's struggling, something that helps me is let them kind of walk you through what they're doing in the home. Because that's how a lot of times I'm able to identify someone who's getting on, putting in the time, but they're just not really having success. I want to hear what they're saying. Because that allows me to get to, when I hear them say it, if they're gonna make a mistake saying it to me, they're probably gonna do the same thing with a client. So it helps me identify their issue. Like, for example, if they're over talking in the first 2 minutes, if it's taking them 3 minutes to get through their introduction, I just know that there's no way the client's still listening to them at that point. So
Sure.
they're going to either be confused or disinterested right from the get go. So
Hmm.
simplify that. And a lot of other times is they're not doing the financial inventory, so they're not asking the right questions. Or like with the guy the other day that was having Andrew, who's having a really amazing couple days. What his thing was he wasn't building the value enough. So when he got to the living life benefits, he was saying critical, chronic, and terminal, but he wasn't going into detail on what those do for the client. And
Mhm.
so I just told him, I said, look, you have to spend more time going through those and explaining what a critical writer does, what a chronic writer does, what a terminal writer does, because that's where you're building value. And I always tell
Sure.
him, look, when value exceeds price, people buy every
Mm.
time. So if you can build the value to the client, when you go to show them the numbers, they're not going to have to think about it. It's more or less which one do I want, because it's the same thing, why do people spend $70,000, $80,000 on a BMW opposed to a Ford Focus? Or the two both vehicles, right? But one has way more value than the other. And so that's
Sure.
how I just try to, by going through that with them, I can generally identify where their issue is and help them get back on track. And then once they have the appointments, it's just, it's all uphill from, downhill from there. So
And for those reps that are struggling, you're following up with them after their appointments. Is this something you are doing at the end of the week? Are they calling you after that appointment? Are you trying to get them when it's fresh on their mind? How are you normally following up with them doing this?
so my initial one is right when they start. I do a role play with them because I want to hear what they're going to say. If they're saying everything great, I'm not touching them. I'll say, great job, go get it. Right. Another time that I'll do it is when they kind of hit a wall. Maybe they've had a couple of good weeks, and then all of a sudden, maybe they kind of hit a wall, and just because they picked up bad habits, where they're saying something, not doing the financial inventory right, not building the value. There's something there, and I'm able to identify that with them. That was kind of Travis's. Travis started off red hot, and then he had an issue where he number one he was over talking in the intro part of it, and then later on he wasn't really doing a good job angling it to the client, making it
Mm.
make sense to the client. And so once we fix those two issues, boom, he shot back up. And so that's where I'm not really touching them unless I feel like they're hitting a wall, and that's when I want to step in and say, hey, let me help you. And the biggest thing is, with a lot of people, it's I can give them all the advice in the world, but it's up to the person to actually take it and apply it. And that's where a lot of these guys are applying it, and then they're taking off because they're taking the coaching is what it is.
Sure, sure. So you're normally having these guys kind of go over their presentation to you, like they're selling you. So you're really
Yeah,
picking it
absolutely.
apart firsthand.
Yeah, yep. And I'll if they're saying something great, I'm gonna praise them on that, right? I always want to praise them on the things they're doing well and the things that they could coach, that I can coach them on. I'll say, hey, look, say this a little bit. I'd recommend doing it this way, and this is why. And kind of give them the why behind. I always want to give them the why behind whatever they're doing, so that way they can realize what they're doing is not right, and if they fix it, this is going to be the end result.
Sure.
So that's kind of what I try to pick out with them.
100%. So you're really something I'm noticing too here is going back into the mentality of this. You're really focused, and I'm sure this came from just the years as a sales manager on the mindset, attitude, and mentality of your agents. You're really taking that
100%.
into account. When you're first even starting the train, like you said, you start it by putting them at ease, and then when you are in the process of training, you are trying to build them up, in that if they're doing something good, you're praising them to try to get that repeated good activity, because obviously it feels good when someone, says something good about us. So we're going to repeat that thing that they're saying. So your understanding of agents at that level is really good. It's really something for all the rest of us to take account of. And then what would you say is, so obviously that's what you're doing when you're getting people to hit a wall. Do you have any moves for, like you said, Travis, who started off red hot, hit a wall, and then kind of went back up? Do you do anything to kind of help them, like maybe like throw gasoline on top of something that's already good, with them? Any advice there?
Yeah, I mean, from day one too, like the first time I come in contact with these reps, from the first time I kind of do an interview with them,
Hmm.
I'm kind of laying out the expectations of this. And from day one, a lot of times they don't have goals necessarily, so I'm setting them a goal of 10K.
Hmm.
I say, because look, from day one, I said, look, where this becomes a business for you is when you're producing 10K a week. For me, I don't know why, but going to this business, my mindset was I have to hit 10K. That is where I just from looking at the numbers after buying leads, after all my expenses that I have to do 10K. So from day one, my goal for them is to get to 10K. And so the whole thing is, okay, how do we get you more leads? We got to get you 30 appointments, because that'll generally, you'll sit in front of generally 20 people, and you're going to close anywhere from 6 to 10 of those. And the more you do this, the better you're going to get. So let's just get you that lead flow. So all my agents, my goal is to get them 30 appointments every single week. If we're not there, we're constantly trying to get them to 30 appointments, because I know if they're making 10K a week, there's no way they're ever going to walk away from this business, because nowhere else can
Sure.
you do that. So if they're making 10K and there's money in their pocket, even on a bad week where they have chargebacks or leads don't go as planned or something happens, I know they have enough money to pay their bills and also invest back into the business. And also this at first appointment, I'm setting the tone for them where I want them to make this a business, and I'm going through integrity. I want them to be an integrity partner, and so I'm telling them day one, kind of like laying out what the mindset of this whole thing is. So that way, when I approach them a couple months down the road about getting a recruiter, they know what the expectation is, because we're in this to grow a business. Not everyone's
Sure.
going to do it, but at the same time, I want them to have that mindset of where this thing is going for them, and let them have that dream as well.
Sure. So is it safe to say, generally speaking, that you're looking for people that are top producers who are looking at this like a business, because I know that you aggressively recruiting. So I'm obviously you're probably not turning aside someone who's like, could I do this part-time? But your
Sure,
focus
100%.
is on people who, like, these guys are going to come in, right, 30, 40 a month and potentially want to grow a business. So you're looking for those guys and girls.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. I'm just looking for people that want to change their lives, to be honest with you. And those are the
Sure.
people I want to invest all my time and effort into.
Hmm.
Again, those are generally the guys that are calling me all the time. The guys that are calling me all the time are the ones that are out there just writing a ton of business, because they're hungry to get better. And so
Sure.
those are the guys, when I'm in an appointment, no matter what I'm doing, I'm going to try to answer the phone to try to help them, because I know they have the mindset of that they're not going to, that they want to make this into a business for themselves and change their
Sure.
family's lives.
Well, this is a pretty cool business just in that way, in that you really get to choose the kind of people you want to work with. You're not
Yeah.
looking for a certain type of, no one's your employee, but you're not really looking for a certain type of agent. I know I was speaking with another agent the other day, and she's a mom, and she works, tries to run his full-time schedule as much as she can, but she has a particular passion for other women in the same position she is, who maybe are mothers, and have to balance and want to contribute to their household. So that's what she's looking for. So she kind of builds her business that way, and she has 4 or 5 that do
Yep.
well, in that way. And you're looking for people, you're aggressively building your business, want to be an integrity partner, so that's what you're looking for. And so, but you really can kind of choose whatever that is. So that's pretty cool. And then something I want to say about this here is why I really loved your answer to my question when I was asking, hey, how do you throw kind of gasoline on a fire? And what you're doing is you're helping people frame this business in their mind.
Hmm.
Like you're making it more than, hey, go out and make, let's say you lived off, 1,500 a week before, let's go out and make that much. You're saying, hey, this is how you make this a business. This is what that looks like. And you're kind of framing in their mind what success in this industry, and you're giving them goals that not only are attainable, but that are really going to bring them to that success. Because just like you said, regardless of where you're at, maybe you got folks who'd be happy, that the with making somewhere between 5 and 10K a month, and you're saying, hey, even for that guy, I'm going to go push him to go out there, right, 30, 40, because he's going to stay here forever. Because
Absolutely.
he's going to make, more than enough money to pay himself what he wants. And then if he has a rough week or, because of, like you said, a drop in the business or leads or whatever, he's still going to be here. He's still going to be happy with what I've kind of helped him achieve.
Absolutely.
That's cool beans. Where you at, Mike, as far as a team? I know we're on September is definitely your biggest month so far. I know
Yeah.
the last month issue paid numbers, I don't think have come out yet. What are you on pace to do, you think?
So we as of week 4, we're at 129. And so I think, after the last final week of September, I think we'll be a little bit over 150.
150?
Um, yeah, so that'll get me to VP. And then just my goal is just to grow 50,000 every month. Is kind of my goal, is just, as I bring on new blood, is to try to get them up and going as quickly as possible, and then keep pushing my top producers to do even more, whether it's investing in their business or just doing more on the personal production side,
For
is just
sure.
to keep, have that mentality of just keep growing, so, and
Yeah.
I want it to be infectious and contagious throughout my team. I want them to constantly be setting new goals for themselves, new goals and new bars to just, help them grow faster than I even grew, that's kind of my goal for them as well. So
Sure. Sure. Yeah, that's a good goal then. So I would say it's safe to say your goal for the end of the year is what? Is a quarter million?
yeah, I'd love to be at 300,000. That's the goal that's in my head right now. So
300.
I am just I'm doing as much as I can on the cold market side, but at the same time I'm reaching out to anyone and everyone that'll talk to me on the warm market side, just to try to continue to grow this thing and just show them the opportunity that I got. I always tell Caleb, I said I'd be ticked if you never told me about this opportunity,
Right.
just because it's changed my life in just a short amount of time. And so I think it'd be very selfish of me not to reach out to other people. At first, I thought I was bugging people, but then I'm like, what the heck, it's literally could change their life if they're willing to just buy into this, to what FFL is and what it represents for so many different families and how it's changed people's lives. So
100%. And that's something, and I think that something, obviously we didn't highlight, but I think as a parent is that you genuinely care about, your agents. And I know it must feel pretty good to see, especially some of the people I know, you got friends from college who are out writing 20, 30, 40 a month. It must be pretty good to know that you introduce them to this opportunity and kind of help them along the way.
absolutely, it's just great to have a little bit of part in their success. I
Mhm.
don't try to take a lot of success because it's all about hard work.
Sure.
But they're the ones that are willing to get out there and work their butts off, and and make it happen and be coachable. So it's just great. I same thing that I did to Caleb. I had reps do it to me all the time, to saying, dude, thank you so much for this opportunity. I don't know how many times Travis has told me that. But it's just because I feel the same way. It's just genuinely a great opportunity. It's almost an opportunity that's too good to be true. So that's what it's great when a rep comes in and starts having that success, because they stuck it out and they kept getting better, and now they're at the place where they're consistently writing great business, and they're just able to, they're able to help so many families, and also whether it's on through the recruiting side or it's through helping a family in the home. So
Sure. Sure. Well, dude, that's pretty cool, man. Pretty cool. Glad to have you here, man. And then so last thing, I'll be respectful for your time. I know you're out there in the field. Obviously you are, a top producer yourself. I didn't ask you where you at for the year.
I'm right around 280, 290. So I got to hit it hard these next few weeks to get to the Hall of Fame. So
Oh
that
yeah,
is
you
my
better.
laser focus for the rest of the year, is to get to that 400. So
Hey, that's still pretty good though, yeah. So what do you think with that, with your previous time in corporate America? What was the biggest year you ever had?
I probably did 100,000 one year,
Hmm.
in my top year take home. So it's just absolutely, it's insanity.
So to be 9 months in your first full year with
Yeah,
FFL to already be at 250, that must feel pretty good.
it's awesome. Yeah, it is absolutely. It's an incredible opportunity. So I
Well,
love it.
that's awesome, dude. Well, so you have a lot of knowledge and experience, both as, an individual producer and now as a team builder, obviously helping so many agents find success. If you were to give us a parting shout, Mike, before we let you go here, of something that you think is just invaluable to success in this industry that you think would be a blessing to everybody, what do you think it would be?
I think it's just about having the mindset that every single day you're going to get better, no matter what you're doing, and just not having the mindset you're ever going to quit. If you just continue to get better every single day, Like I tell all the agents, work to get 1% better every day. If you're continually striving to get better, your business is only going to grow, and you're only going to be able to help more people by putting the time and effort into this business, and just being able to invest in people. Is really what this comes down to. Just investing in people. By you getting better, you're able to help more people. So if you can just focus on getting 1% better every day, this the sky's the limit for this business. And